Hi, I'm Joey Akin, and if you care about African music beyond just the hits, I'd love to invite you into something deeper. Afrobeat Intelligence is the podcast extension of my newsletter. Each week, I examine the trends, the people, and the process behind the sound with guests like Tiwa Savage, Loj, Ruga, and SARS. Join us as we unpack how Afrobeats became a global cultural force. Subscribe to Afrobeat Intelligence on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen.
Rohome Productions. What's up, y'all? Unruly Subjects is outside. Yes, we are. All the way outside. You know what I'm saying? The weather has warmed up, and man, it's all going down. You know what I mean? We got Pride Weekend coming up, so you know what I'm saying? If you know what I mean, just gonna be out there celebrating who you are, what you do that. You know what I mean? And we also want to give a lot of love to our Patreon supporters. Listen, we are a free and independent show, and there's two reasons why I want you to consider becoming a part of our Patreon community. Like, if you're listening to this and you're not a part of the community, we rely on the way that people are supporting us there to help us keep making the show. And I'm getting more and more tips, things people want us to cover, and there's a lot of possibilities of really cool stuff we can do. And you can support us by not just, joining, but even if you join at the free tier, you can get in there and let us know what you think about what's going on, right? You get more access to our team and just kind of a little bit more behind the scenes. So we really want you to be a part of that. And that's the other reason, is that there's all kinds of stuff you're going to get. You're going to get stuff early. We'll put some episodes. In fact, there's a thing I'm going to try to put up there early this week, and you'll be the first to hear that. So lots of reasons to support. We want you to be a part of that community. And big thanks to those who are already supporting us. All right. This week, we're going to talk about what's going on with the protests at the ICE Detention Center in Newark, New Jersey, Delaney Hall. For those who haven't been paying attention, this is a massive ICE detention center in Newark. And like all detention centers, the conditions are egregious, so egregious that after all kinds of, people have died and all kinds of other horrors, the detainees have gone on a hunger strike. Hundreds of detainees are on a hunger strike there. Protesters have rallied and things have really escalated. Last week, I was there twice with once with my wife and my daughter and Yola, just kind of, trying to be supportive and figuring out what all is going on. And so I did a couple of interesting interviews, but one in particular that I really want y'all to hear. So that's what we're going to do this week on the show. But before we do that, I want to talk about some other exciting things that are coming up on Unruly Subjects, because I'm out there trying to get to the real topics that are happening out there. So I was kind of scrolling the news and I saw that there's a new category being created by the federal government and sort of, it seems like, tech companies, called anti-tech extremists. Have y'all seen this? Anti-tech extremists. As soon as I saw it, it reminded me of when the federal government created a category called Black identity extremists. These labels that they then use to sort of unleash and authorize all these surveillance mechanisms and new ways to detain and incarcerate people and suppress resistance. And I was like, oh, wow. So now they're doing it related to tech, right? This really was meaningful because, as you may know, we've been covering like the sort of fight against data centers on the show. Last week's episode was a conversation with Saul Levin and Astra Taylor about the data center movement. And then a couple of episodes ago, we did a show called How to Kill a Data Center. So we're very aware and have been in touch with some of the people who are leaders in this data center fight. And by the way, I think it was Astra who said that there's a poll out there that is suggesting that like somewhere in the neighborhood of 70% of Americans are either skeptical about or uncomfortable with AI. So when you create a category that includes all those people and says they're dangerous and maybe they might be violent, it's like, wow, that's what is going on. So I got to talk to Daniel Boguslaw, who's one of the reporters right on the cutting edge of this, and he broke it all down for us. So that's coming up soon. I hope we can put it on Patreon this week, but we'll definitely have something out soon on that. Another thing that is coming up is after my conversation with Astrid Taylor and Saul Levin, I learned that some celebrities, some folks who a lot of us, I think, like, are being paid to have what I was described as deceptive conversations about AI. These are conversations where they look like they're, doing critical thinking about AI and they're asking hard questions, but actually, in a way, they're steering people away from some of the real questions about labor, surveillance, and ecological harm, and all these other things. So yeah, I don't want to say too much, but I'm telling you, you're going to be, some of you will be really surprised. And we had a really good conversation. Astra and I kind of process what it really means to think critically about AI and what does it mean that people are being paid to sort of steer the conversation in certain directions. So that's all some stuff coming up. Again, plenty of receipts with that. But this week we want to focus on Delaney Hall. Now, if you're anywhere near the sort of regular news, or definitely if you're in the world of social media, there's a lot of sometimes like minute to minute coverage of what's happening outside this facility in New Jersey. All kinds of things. I mean, a spectacle of confrontations between police, between ICE and these protesters. People are out there risking themselves day after day. They're putting their bodies between ICE, the Geo Group, because this is a privately run facility, police, and the detainees, people being held inside. And they're just making sure that this can't be ignored. And that's really important because one of the basic functions of these detention centers is to hide people, right? It's when you go to the place, it's often, it's like in this kind of industrial area in Newark. It's not an easy place to get to. And they're really out of sight. And unfortunately, when they're out of sight, they're out of mind, even though what's unfolding in these detention centers is absolutely a crisis. And so what these protesters, families, organizers, lawyers, and supporters are doing is to break through that invisibility and forcing a place like Delaney Hall into public view. So over the past 2 weeks, and especially the last week, the situation has escalated sharply. Governor Mikey Sherrill sent in the New Jersey State Police. And she was saying that, state law enforcement would take over policing in order to lower the tension. And, the assumption was that somehow the state police would be better than ICE. But basically, I don't see any difference between the violence that these state police have unleashed on these protesters and what ICE does. I mean, they set a curfew and they set up like a First Amendment zone. So instead of allowing the protesters and also the people who are supporting families and distributing different kinds of mutual aid, like all that was moved from in front of the facility to some First Amendment zone. And that was done, I think, with a lot of aggression and violence. And then, at some point, the state police have tear gassed people. They arrested protesters and, they're enforcing this curfew now. And, of course, the governor and different people are making all these claims about violence and disorder. There's accusations coming from law enforcement. And I'm not going to pretend that I have all the details of every single claim. But even Governor Sherrill has acknowledged that the vast majority of the protesters are peaceful. And that's what every time I've seen it there, it's been people who are there, but they're peaceful. But peaceful doesn't mean that they're not asserting their rights to free speech and their rights to protest. And sometimes people get that twisted. And, because peaceful doesn't always mean compliant. The larger fact is this facility should not exist. People are inside facing hunger, serious medical neglect. You'll hear about this from Sally Pillay, who we're going to talk to in this interview. They're facing retaliation from the staff. Of course, they're facing separation from family and this really convoluted legal process that is probably, violating laws, but definitely violating anything ethical or humane. Now, Newark Mayor Ras Baraka has gotten involved in this. And quite frankly, he's been involved in challenging this facility for a long time. And he's basically threatening more legal action if people aren't allowed to inspect Delaney Hall because they haven't even let the governor in, or at least so she claims. And Baraka has argued that Geo Group is a private company operating a private facility with private workers, but it still has to be subject to state and municipal law. So we'll see what happens now that Ras Baraka is involved. But the center of this story isn't the politicians. It's really the people inside, the folks who are currently on hunger strike and enduring these conditions. and their families and the grassroots organizers who have been building this and working with them before the cameras arrived, and they'll be there when the cameras are gone. And so that's why I want to rewind a little bit. Last week, when I went out to Delaney Hall with my wife and my daughter, my wife actually introduced me to an organizer named Sally Pillay, who's part of something called the Eyes on Ice Coalition in New Jersey. And they've been doing support work around Delaney Hall for over a year. And this conversation I had with Sally really brings some of that work into focus. And it kind of surprised me, right, in a way, because she really helped me see these different parts of the work a little bit more clearly and how sometimes they're a little bit in tension, right? Because the protesting that we're seeing is one part of the struggle, a courageous part of the struggle, and that's getting a lot of coverage. But there's also the work of visiting people, keeping track of folks and their cases, supporting families, connecting folks to legal resources, and also amplifying the voices of the people inside. And one way that's happening is through letters. And Sally's going to talk about some of these letters coming from the inside. There was one of these letters that we actually read on the show. It's on our Patreon right now. It's from Leonardo Vijalba, and he was detained at Delaney Hall and has since been transferred. And there are more letters coming out as well. And we're going to keep trying to share those because the voices of these detainees have to stay at the center of this story, right? Their words tell us what's happening, what the facility is doing to people, what they're experiencing, what they're demanding, and why this call actually has to be for freedom, right? Not just like improved conditions in detention. And there's one other thing I really want to say that came out. It's a really interesting tension that we're going to have to hold, which is that, you know, if you're thinking about going out there and, you know, again, people are doing courageous work out there, it is important to kind of connect to some folks who have been there, maybe connect to some of the folks who are doing the other, you know, sort of like less spectacular part of the work, and just understand and hear that perspective of how, you know, what that work means and what that means for how the tactics we need to use. Look, these police are going to use force, so I encourage everybody to do what you have to do to protect yourself. But again, the reason so many of us are talking about Delaney Hall right now is because people refuse to look away, and they're out there putting it on the line. So that refusal is part of the work. And, you know, it's not always neat, you know, and sometimes it means standing outside a detention center, protesting in concert while people on the inside are banging on windows. And other times it means helping a family member figure out where their loved one was moved. And so with that, I want to let y'all hear my conversation with Sally Pillay. This episode of Unruly Subjects is brought to you by Haymarket Books, which has loads of great left-wing titles, perfect for listeners like you. And one that I know y'all are going to feel is Unions of Our Own, 8 Building Blocks to Change Work and the World by Daniel Gross. Our workplaces urgently need to get better, but change can feel murky, daunting, or even impossible. We imagine a different world, too, but billionaires are doing their best to make things worse. In Unions of Our Own, veteran labor organizer and co-founder of the IWW Starbucks Workers Union, Daniel Gross, provides a radically new, step-by-step framework for workers who want to dramatically improve their jobs and dream of bigger changes too. It reveals and puts into your hands the 8 fundamental building blocks to win a union that meets your needs and values. Through proven tools, Gross's personal stories from campaigns, vivid history, and real-world examples, Unions of Our Own offers a practical, accessible, and empowering philosophy on how to design your own union and win. As Mark Bray puts it, if your workplace lacks a union, this is the book to read with your fellow workers. If you are already a union member, read this book to expand your ranks and build more power from the bottom up. Find Unions of Our Own at haymarketbooks.org, where all paperback books are 20% off every day.
So we are absolutely angry at what happened with the ICE agents. More than 40 ICE agents stormed into units 2A, 2B, locked them in, closed up the vents, pepper sprayed the entire unit, used their batons, were pushing them around, hitting them. Somebody had a broken nose, blood was everywhere in this unit. And this happened literally around 1:30. Who's going to hold them accountable to the brutality inside?
And do you feel like some of the protests that are happening out here, do you feel like there's a way that they've maybe lost a little bit of focus?
Absolutely. The media that's showing up here, the folks who are showing up here, what is the end game? What is the goal, right? If they are stopping the vans to leave, to be transported out, that's still not happening because people are still being transported out. Not in mass movements, but they are still moving people around, number one. Number two, people are still being brutalized inside. There's still bad conditions inside. So what are we doing to stop all of that? We need to refocus and recenter those that are putting their bodies on the line, the courageous men and women who are suffering inside, are being brutalized, and they are scared, and they're intimidated, and they're retaliated against. So the families who are showing up, look around you, all these families showing up for their loved ones because they're scared. They don't know if they're going to see them again. They don't know what's going to happen. As Gabriela said, her child turns 2 tomorrow. She has an autistic child. She doesn't know. She doesn't know. And so I'd say to the people outside, they were doing all of this peacefully inside. They're getting attacked inside because it's incited to the protest outside, which has now morphed into something way bigger without a focus of trying to turn this into a peaceful protest.
Do you think, though, that, like, although there's escalations outside, I hear what you're saying, that they've incited more violence against the detainees. Do you think it's good that it's brought more national attention to this situation?
It is absolutely good that there is so much more attention on Delaney Hall. Over the year that we've been working on the ground, we've been standing in solidarity with the families who have been showing up here. It's one of the largest facilities on the East Coast, right? And number two, this facility is contracted out to GEO, one of the largest for-profit prison entities who's making money out of immigration. They have a 15-year contract for $1 billion, taxpayers' money that is being put to use here in this facility. But it's a facility that doesn't have parking for families coming to visit. It's a facility that does not have indoor waiting area for families to visit. We have been waiting in the storms, in the rains, in the cold, brutal winter outside. And GEO and ICE has not even recognized that.
Right. I think this is important because for people who just started to tune in when the hunger strike started on Friday, they may not understand that this tent or, people have been here supporting these families, like you said, for over a year. Is that
Absolutely.
right? Don't let me stop you from what you gotta. Are you good?
It's over a year we've been here. We showed up here in support and solidarity because we saw how families were being treated. But through that, we've refocused into the folks that have been detained. And so we were able to have a direct link to them. They call us all the time. We are able to get a lot of information as to the conditional issues in the facility. And we are able to get the legislators to start going in. Yes, this has really heightened the situation in terms of the international and national look at this facility, and probably most likely the international community that will reprimand what is United States doing, to immigrants, locking them up, languishing in detention in horrible conditions. So yes, we welcome that attention, but we don't incite the violence that is being done outside, because right now the families are suffering.
Right. There's people here in this tent with us who had family members.
As you can see, there's mommies with kids here.
Right, some of their families were assaulted. Absolutely. You were telling me about one detainee who has a medical situation that hasn't been addressed?
Yes, we have somebody who has been detained since December of last year. He is wheelchair. He's on a wheelchair. And In March, when I visited the facility, I did not even know he was there, and I saw him in a wheelchair in the visitation room, and I was appalled. I got right onto it and I said, no, this is like, we need to figure out how we're going to advocate. And since that day in March, I got the press involved and I got the legislators to try to visit him so we can push to kind of get him released. He was coerced into signing voluntary departure, and the judge basically coerced him and said, if you do not sign voluntary departure, I will deport you. So he was scared and he signed voluntary departure. We have since then worked, to get his case appealed while we are advocating for him to be released. He's not a threat. He's not a flight risk. He's basically being put in isolation, medical isolation, beyond 100 days right now.
Oh my God.
He's in isolation and he is on a wheelchair. He was on a crutches. They removed the crutches and said, you cannot have crutches and you cannot be in the regular housing unit because you can use the crutches as a weapon.
There's a narrative out there that is, even I thought that Martin Soto was the leader of the hunger strike and his wife is supporting him, but that's not quite right. Is that correct?
So, no, Gabriela Soto is one of the impacted family members. She has been visiting her husband here. We've been supporting her and her family since he has been detained. She led the movement as a rally, a solidarity rally for families, inspiring and empowering families to speak out and speak up against the violations that have been happening to their loved ones in this facility. Locked up in detention, no due processes, and they wanted their voices to be heard in solidarity to what's happening. And this is in part of the 300, more than, I would say 288 to be exact, men and women, brave men and women who signed onto the letter, with their demands. And their demands were for the governor of the state of New Jersey, Chelo, to show up at the facility, to have direct contact with them, to speak to them and witness what's happening in the facility. They also called for the most vulnerable to be released. Pregnant women, youth, children that are 18 years of age and older who have special immigrant juvenile status. They called for those who have medical issues, the most medically vulnerable, the elderly, for them to be released. And they've called for a legal review of their cases, because a lot of the legal review that's happening is basically in violation of their due process. So there's no justice in the immigration justice system. And finally, they called for those who have voluntary departure or being coerced for voluntary departure. For those who want to leave and have already signed, they are being kept here longer than they should. They are asking to leave immediately. So they've already given their passport to ICE. They've even, some of the family members are willing to buy tickets, and basically they're still languishing in detention. And then for the others, they are basically being coerced. They're being coerced to actually sign to leave. So they don't want all of this, right? And so those are their demands, right? And we need to refocus. What are the? So in light of that, the rally happened, and in real time, men and women called us directly while the rally was happening, speaking to the media. They decided to engage in the hunger and the labor strike, which happened on Friday. It started Friday at 9 a.m., right? And then when they said to us in real time, this is what they're doing, we decided as a coalition with the families that we need to do something. So we, in solidarity, we will engage in a 24-hour solidarity vigil with those that are detained. And so on Friday, that's what we did. We were here from 9 a.m. till the next morning.
I heard 4 a.m., but,
No, we were here from 9 a.m.
From 9 a.m.
Friday, because we had our rally.
Got you.
Okay. So from that, it morphed into the 24-hour vigil until the next morning. Okay. When that happened, it went into visitation hours. We had visitation all day on Saturday. I was outside with Gabriela Soto when she got a phone call from her husband saying, ICE is giving me paperwork to sign. It's order of release. It's order of release. Okay. When that happened, I was skeptical. I was like, what are they releasing? Maybe what we're doing outside is making an impact. Maybe he's going to be released. I go in with her. She grabs my hand. We go inside. We got processed for the visitation. And I was still very skeptical, but I couldn't tell her. She was on high alert. She knew in her gut something did not sit right. as we were in and out, she was in hypervigilance.
Right.
And I was trying to calm us, like, maybe he's not gonna get seen. She's not gonna get seen because visitation is about to start. If they already brought him out, they're gonna process him, right? I'm standing at the ramp, I'm looking, I'm trying to and then I see the two vans pull up, and I was like, this doesn't look good, right? And then as I'm like, between like, I say 15, 20 minutes after 4, and I'm like, oh, this is like, so I see some guys being handcuffed, shackled, and being taken to one van, and I was like, and she yells at me, Sally, that's Martin, that's Martin, that's Martin, that's Martin. And I'm like, I don't know, I can't tell. She starts running to the gate. I hit my knee, and I'm running after. I grab our IDs. We get to that. On the ramp, the van's coming out. We see it's him because you can see through the window, and he's banging. He was shackled, but he was banging. This is before the protesters can even come. We were trying to protect Gabby and Martin.
This is on Sunday, right?
This is Saturday. This is Saturday. So this is right before the last unit could go in for visitation. Families were waiting for the last unit, so visitation was canceled.
Gotcha.
Right then and there. So the families were very upset.
Right, because
and then
now
to grow. People started showing up in protection, and they kind of morphed into no visitation Sunday. A big rally ensued, protest ensued. But Martin was not, he painted a target on his back because Gabby was very vocal in speaking out and speaking up. And, you know, when the protesters arrived and started, like, you know, media and social media, you know, took over, you know, that's the narrative that was spread.
Because now he's moved to Elizabeth, and now he's facing charges, right?
Absolutely. He's in solitary confinement right now. He's going to be facing disciplinary charges. We don't know when, how, what that looks like. In terms of any criminal charges, it's unclear. There isn't anything that is public that we know of that says who's being charged,
right,
and what is in charge of. We will probably wait another 24 to 48 hours to see if they bring about any charges, and then we'll try to figure out how we can work with an attorney to address what's happening to Martin and Gabriella.
I'm going to do everything in my power to get this story out because, for example, you know, it's interesting. Like, it's a subtle difference, but it's important. It's a woman arguing for all the families.
Yes.
But people have made it into a woman supporting her husband who is the leader. That's different. Yeah. And also the impact that these protests are having. I think people are well-meaning. I think they want to make it something that you can't be ignored. But what you're saying is very important, and I really think it's important because you all have been here the whole time. You all have been here before when the cameras weren't here. Eyes on Ice, that's the coalition?
Yeah, it's a
and if I see those sort of accounts and websites, for people, I know people are like, what can we do? What is the helpful thing to do right now?
I think you can support the organizations in the coalition who are doing this work on the ground, working with families who are impacted. So we have organizations that I run. It's called Mami Chelo Foundation.
Wait a second.
So I'm the director of a nonprofit called Mami Chelo Foundation. It's with an impacted person who was detained for 13 months. And we are doing similar work, you know, working with families and individuals across the country, supporting folks in detention. And we have Action 21, we have Pax Christi, we have Cosecha, who are part of our coalition that have been doing the work from the first day on the ground here. So folks can support financially through that org. Right now visitation is on halt. We collect grocery cards. We give that to the families. As the families who showed up right now, that's what we'll be doing. Even though there's no visitation, it's a visitation day. We are handing out toys to the kids, stuffed animals and toys. We distribute diapers to the families, grocery cards, because that helps to supplement. As you know, the breadwinner is often the ones that are locked up, and so leaves the families in crisis. So any financial contributions we get, we help to supplement for rental assistance and any other emergency assistance that we can help with. But plus the grocery cards help because they are able to buy groceries and put food on their table. We collect Uber transport cards, but right now that's a little bit on hold. If there's anyone released, that usually helps us to get them to transport it back home. But we used to transport the families back and forth so they could visit their loved ones here as well. Just spread the word. spread actually the demands of those that are detained.
Yeah, you laid out the demands.
Yes.
I'm going to lay those
And
out. I already sent, there was a letter. It's at this La Huelga
Yes.
and Leonardo.
All the
I
letters
shared
are
that
there.
already on my...
We have 2 more letters to publish.
Yes.
One that just came from the women's unit and a few other people. I'm hoping we'll have the bandwidth.
So those letters are good.
It's good. It's exactly what's happening. One is from the women's unit only.
Very important.
And the other one is a glimpse of each one. We have folks who are from Afghanistan that signed on to that actually shared their story with that letter. And so...
I know there's people who are saying, should they come? Because, you're seeing these calls on social media saying we need more people here.
That's not our call.
That's not
our call. Eyes on Eyes Coalition, New Jersey is not. That's not our call. These are folks who are showing up now on the ground who have not been doing the work at Delaney Hall. And listen, to each its own, right? They want to come, they want to do the work, by all means, right? But it's not our call for folks to show up because this is inciting more violent protests outside. I mean, I guess if folks want to show up just to be an observer and just kind of see, not engage, they're welcome to do that.
And to learn.
And to learn and to be
more.
taught.
Right.
They should come to the white tent. They should come tag anyone with a yellow reflective vest, Eyes on Ice volunteer, talk to them, ask them questions, learn more about what really happened at Delaney Hall,
right.
What's going on at Delaney Hall, because that's important. It's important to really spread the right information and not the wrong information.
Right, and then when visitation opens up again, there's other ways to
Well, I would
continue
have
to
to tell you today, and again, most people will not know this because, we get the inside information. Today, visitation rules have just transformed and changed. No one is going to be allowed to visit unless they are put on a visitation list. So, for example, loved ones have to be putting their name, their date of birth, and their addresses on a list.
Which is going to be a real deterrent.
It's going to be a big problem because family members often show up without even knowing their loved one is here or without even knowing how to get in contact with them inside. How are they going to put their names on the list?
Where is that list that you fill out?
Inside the jail.
So they have to physically come? Can
the
you
loved
online,
one,
online, can you fill it out?
The friends that are detained has to put their loved ones or people on their list for visits. And we were already visiting, and now that's taken away. So all of this
So those detainees would have to put even the supporters' names for them to come out. So it's a way of...
Absolutely. Right. And if they don't, they're not going to get visits. So this has really created a hurdle, to be quite honest. Everything that we've done and made a little bit inroads, it's basically gone on the wayside. They know who we are. We've been here. So they recognize our faces. It's going to be a challenge to get in.
So it's so tricky because it's good that people are paying attention, but I really hear you about the way that it also feels like there's a couple of steps that have been taken in the wrong direction.
And I would say if this is a call, and again, our call has been freedom. Everyone should be released. Facility should close down, right? If we call for the facility to be closed down without the element of everyone being released, what then happens to everyone? And in the years of doing this work, they have transferred everyone, right? They've transferred. They continue to transfer people out of Jersey, right? New Yorkers are detained here. People coming from the southwestern border are detained here. I have an 18-year-old, by the way. I would like to highlight his case. He's from Africa. 18-year-old who fled. He spent 2 of his birthdays in detention. They transferred him from the southern border. And he spent 2 birthdays now. He just turned 20. We celebrated him wearing our shirts that said happy birthday, wrote everything in so we could get into wish him happy birthday. And right now, they've denied every avenue for us to get him released. And now we have to raise money to file a petition for review. So it goes to a higher court because we just applied for his special immigrant juvenile status. Both of his parents are deceased. He has nobody. And he's in the facility. So, it's important to highlight who's detained, their stories, so that we can actually induce impact, so we can get them out. And the person that's in the wheelchair, number one priority for us to get him out. He should not be there. He should not be there for 100 days.
But we can't
beyond.
say his name right now.
Oh, yes, I can.
What's his name?
Emmanuel Rodriguez.
Emmanuel Rodriguez.
And the media is covering some of that.
That's
and we
already
want to
lifted
highlight.
up and we
There
want to put
is,
him even more.
yes, we need to uplift him. We need to get him out. And that's my priority. That's all of our priority, with our coalition. And for each and every one, it's our cry is to have them all released.
All right, y'all. So that was Sally Pillay from Eyes on Ice, New Jersey. And, just listening back to that, there's a few things that really stay with me. First of all, the basic facts of what's unfolding are urgent, right? I mean, these detainees have been retaliated against, pepper sprayed, beaten, isolated, denied medical care, and cut off from visitation, basically because they're trying to call attention to the conditions inside, right? So that has to be recognized. The demand, she lays out, an account of the demands, and of course we're going to put those demands and the links to all that information out there. Second, she really kind of sharpens something that could easily get lost, which is that the demand to shut it down can't simply be about moving people from one detention center to another. If Delaney Hall closes while people are transferred elsewhere, then these people might just go out of sight, right? The families could lose access, and the retaliation could become harder to track. So for Sally, the demand has to be release them first and then shut it down. And, I think I agree with that. Third, this conversation is a reminder that movements really do need different kinds of work, right? Of course, there's some people who confront the carceral machinery directly, right? Creating disruption that forces the public to pay attention. But then there's people who build relationships with families, track cases, collect letters, bring groceries, support visitation, and really stay present after the cameras leave. And those roles can come into tension, right? I mean, that's just the reality of it. And that tension is real, and we have to figure out how to hold it. But the enemy here is not anybody doing any of that kind of work, trying to resist in whatever ways we can, right? The enemy is the ICE detention system, right? And the whole carceral apparatus, and the violence being used against people inside the facility and outside. So it's important to keep clear who the enemy is here. And yeah, I mean, I just thought Sally she really laid it out so powerfully, and it's important to listen to people who are, have strong connections to those inside, and to keep the detainees' demands at the center and make sure the increased attention turns into that pressure for release. So we'll include some links that are relevant to this, and just continue to try to lift those voices up. Thank y'all for listening. Unruly Subjects is produced in partnership with Rohome Productions. Boy, I'm proud of Rohome. Alex Lewis is Rohome's creative director. John Myers is Rohome's executive producer. Thanks to Danya Abdel Hamid and Awan Sao. Shout out to my wife Sadaka and to my daughter Yola. And big major thanks to Sally Pillay with Eyes on Ice, New Jersey. Man, Sally was putting in work out there. She was talking to me. She was leaning on the baby wipes and dropping knowledge. So much respect for your commitment and your clarity. Sally also works with an organization called Mami, Chelo, so you want to check that out. They do advocacy and education and all kinds of stuff. Speaking of guests, did you hear our episode from last week with Astrid Taylor and Saul Levin about the fight against data centers and why that fight is so important? Y'all definitely want to check that out. It's going to make you smarter on the topic, and it's also going to give you some inspiration. Our theme music was composed by Axel Kakutier. Alex Tutusian made our tile art. Make sure you subscribe to Unruly Subjects wherever you get your podcasts. Unruly Subjects is now on YouTube. So if that's an easier way for you to engage, go on over to the YouTube page and, give us a like, copy the link, share it with somebody. You can also follow the show on Instagram at Unruly Subjects Pod. My personal Instagram is at Chenjerai. And we also want to know why you listen to Unruly Subjects. We want to know what you are interested in and a little bit about you and what is working for you, what you want to see more of. So we put together a brief survey. The link is in our show notes, and it'll take you less than a minute, and it'll really help us. If you can fill that out. By the way, leave us a review too on Apple Podcasts. You know what I'm saying? We want to see what you think there. So let us know, and we'll be back next week with more. Peace. Rohome Productions. Hey, Unruly Subjects, it's Chenjerai, and I need your help to keep the show going strong. If you love what we do here, consider supporting us by joining our Patreon community. It's the best way to back the show, and you get some incredible benefits in return. Membership starts at just $5 a month. There's nothing that cheap, at least in New York. And you immediately get ad-free episodes and exclusive premium episodes. That includes interview outtakes and other extras you ain't gonna hear anywhere else. But that's not all. You can access the Unruly chat and polls. When we have a live event, you're gonna get the pre-sale tickets and the merch. Oh my God, the merch. The merch is gonna be fly. And you receive invitations to our Q&A live streams and, my favorite, our annual exclusive hangout with me, the producers, and a special guest. So come on people, join the Unruly mob. Visit patreon.com/unrulysubjects. And thank you for making this show possible.